On this week's episode of the Geek State, it's official. We've got some new Star Wars coming our way. When? That's the question.
Jedi Fallen Order free content has been announced, and I'm on Twitch.
We dive into more Star Wars talk with the greatest underrated battles and fights from the saga. All that and more on this very Star Wars episode of the Geek State.
People often ask me, why did you become a filmmaker? Well, the main reason, just wanted to impress my mum and dad and to show them I'm not a loser. I don't care what you say. I can achieve some dreams, not my own dreams, but other people's dreams. I can get close to being J.J. Abrams. I know you wanted him as a son, but you got me. I'm sorry I'm not J.J. Abrams. They say, Taika, we wish we called you J.J. Abrams. Would have been so much cooler. You'd have done Star Wars. Well, it didn't. All right, Mum and Dad, I didn't. You're stuck with me.
Stand by alert.
This is it.
This episode features exclusive new content from George Lucas fans. This is the Geek State.
Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Geek State podcast, the show about all the cool stuff going on in the world of geek. We're recording this on May the 5th, so it's officially Revenge of the Six, or Cinco de Mayo. So we're here celebrating. And of course, we just got through with May the 4th, big Star Wars day, and I could not do this show all by myself. Then that's why we've got our good buddy James here. James, ready to talk a bunch of Star Wars stuff today. We got a loaded show, tons of Star Wars.
We do have a loaded but focused, Chris. Mm-hmm. We're not across the board on this. We have a few topics, and we are really hitting them hard with the help of our great audience.
Yes, lots of great feedback. Thank you guys so much, and ladies, for providing us with your opinions on our main topic. We're going to be talking about the most underrated, but also like our favorite battle scenes. So we're not talking like Luke versus Vader. This is kind of going a little bit deeper. Stuff that, you know, when you think of the great battles of Star Wars, these don't typically come to mind right off the bat. And so we're going to talk about that in detail. But I got to know, James, you know, yesterday was May the 4th. It was Star Wars Day. I'm still work from home. I think you're still work from home. Did you do anything to celebrate the Star Wars Day?
I did, Chris. I've been dabbling recently, and I've said this before on the on the podcast, but actually dedicating more time and effort into it now. Dabbling in the Twitch world as of late, and for May the 4th, I booted up the old Twitch and I played some Rogue Squadron. The 64 Rogue Squadron on that, and had a couple people in the chat. We were chatting it up, having a good time. So really enjoyed that. And yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing.
That's fantastic. And let's talk more about that Twitch thing in just a second, because I did not get an invitation to join in that celebration. I have been enjoying being on Twitch recently with our other friend, James.
Well, Chris, all you have to do is go to twitch.tv/sgeeksjames, click that follow button, little notification bell, and then you'll know whenever I pop on. But usually it's around 9 p.m. on random weeknights. I need to figure out a schedule. That's what everyone says. You need to have a schedule. So I will come up with something that'll be more consistent. But for now, until I get everything set up and kind of get into my routine, we're kind of just going by the seat of our pants. Sometimes It's 9 a.m. on a Saturday. You'll catch me.
I don't want to miss the next one. Absolutely. It was great because May the 4th, we had a lot of stuff drop on the Disney Plus. Not only was it the series finale of the Clone Wars, which was fantastic. That was a chef's kiss. It was incredible. It was very action packed. I'm eagerly waiting for Disney Plus to put all 4 of those episodes together without the intros and everything, so I can watch it as a movie, because it's so cinematic. It is incredible, and I can't wait for, because I know James, you're catching up. You're doing a bit of a rewatch, and so when you get to that point, I can't wait to talk to you about it, because what a send off! It was absolutely fantastic. But also on Disney Plus, we got the new docu-series for The Mandalorian called Disney Gallery. And the first episode is about the directors. And it's a really great behind-the-scenes look at the making and the directing process and how these people came together to make The Mandalorian. And it's really, really good. And then, of course, I didn't watch it because I've already had it, is The Rise of Skywalker is now on Disney Plus, along with a lot of the extra features, which was pretty cool. And what was also pretty cool, James, as we, as a podcast, me as in just me personally, we were on the radio, like actual terrestrial FM radio yesterday. And that was the first time. It's been a really long time. I worked in radio for the 4 years that I was in college, and had the opportunity to meet some really cool people. And one of those really cool people, our good friend Dano, who, if you remember from our Halloween episode, gave us some really good picks to what movies to watch on Halloween. You know, some just unique stuff that you don't normally think about. He messaged me a few hours before the drive time segment was coming up and was like, "Hey, do you want to come on and talk about Star Wars?" And I was like, yes. Do you have to ask? And so got that set up and was on, got to talk a lot about the recent news. And we're going to talk about some of that news coming up, but some of that and the rumors. And it was a really, really, really fun time.
It is 5:31 on your drive home. Dano here with you, and my special guest, Mr. Chris Luby, joins me now. And Chris and I were in Howard Payne together, and he is also one of a pair of guys doing the Geek State podcast. And thanks for jumping in here with me on Star Wars Day, buddy.
Dano, it is an absolute pleasure. It would jump at any opportunity to not only be on your show, but to talk Star Wars.
I know you were also, I listened to the last episode, y'all were talking about, of all things, SeaQuest, which I was like, I hadn't even thought about SeaQuest in decades.
I think this is the first on-air terrestrial broadcast mention of SeaQuest DSB since 1995. Yeah, we were talking about the fact that NBC is rolling out their Peacock streaming service, and I've been desperately trying to find out if SeaQuest will be a part of their back catalog, and I got some confirmation from someone who has one of the early rollouts, and they searched for SeaQuest, and it's all there. So I can't wait.
That's pretty wild, man. I hadn't even thought about that in so long. So.
And of course, I had to give some plugs. I had to talk about the podcast. It was really great. And so I just, big thanks to News Talk 102.3 KXYL out of Brownwood, Texas for having me on. It was a really, really cool way to celebrate May the 4th. Well, it wouldn't be May the 4th without some big news coming out of Lucasfilm and StarWars.com. Some of the news was things that we'd heard about. There were some rumors that we had reported on previous podcasts, and it is now official. So we've got the details about some new Star Wars projects that are coming up because Taika Waititi, the director of Jojo Rabbit, The Hunt for the Wilder People, Thor Ragnarok, is going to be directing and co-writing upcoming Star Wars feature film. He's co-writing this with Academy Award nominee Christy Williams-Carnes. She also she was the writer on 1917 and Last Night in Soho and received the BAFTA Award for Outstanding British Film of the Year in the 3-time Oscar-winning film, 1917. So some pretty big names. And then just like maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, we talked about Leslie Headland. She was a showrunner on Russian Doll, and about her being tapped to do a new series for Disney Plus, and that is also official. And the details are that she's going to write, executive produce, and serve as showrunner of the series. No details about like what these movies will be about or what the series will be about, and also no release date is yet to be announced. There were also some pretty cool directors, some personal favorites. Robert Rodriguez confirming the rumor that he is directing an episode of The Mandalorian by posting on Instagram. He posted a picture of himself with the child, Baby Yoda, which James, by the way, I went out on a whim to the local Walmart and just to kind of see. I'd been hearing reports that the Mattel child was showing up in stores, and lo and behold, at my little small town Walmart, there were 2 left.
Well, look at that. So you have a child. You are of child.
I want to welcome my bouncing baby, 50-year-old baby boy, and announce to the world that I have acquired my target. I was telling some friends that, you know, I sent them a picture, and I was like, I feel like a legit bounty hunter. Like,
yeah, except you got it on your first try.
No. You
did not. Oh, I see.
So I'd been seeing reports of the child at Target and a bunch of other places and at Walmarts, and I would, you know, break out of my home, put on the face mask. So see, you know, bounty hunting it up, you know, getting the costume on, and then heading out to the Walmart and being just thoroughly disappointed. And then this time I checked the Star Wars section, and there wasn't one there. And then I turned around, and on a random shelf, they had 2 stacked there, because I guess there wasn't any room on an empty shelf where their normal Star Wars stuff should be. But yeah, found the child. Also, Peyton Reed, who is the guy that did Ant-Man, is also, and there's a couple others, but those are the 2 that stood out to me. I was like, oh man, that's fantastic. Like, those are, you know, I really respect Robert Rodriguez for his like guerrilla style of like filmmaking.
Absolutely.
And always been a fan, even the Spy Kids stuff. I mean, maybe not Shark Girl and Lava Boy or whatever it's called. Shark Boy and Lava Girl. That's what it is. Yeah.
It's one of those. I didn't know that was him as well.
Yeah.
So essentially just Spy Kids. He did another Spy Kids movie.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it kind of is. It was just like the kids from Spy Kids grew up. So they were like, we got to do something else for kids. Something he can shoot in his backyard on a green screen. But, you know, like Desperado and you know.
El Mariachi.
And yeah, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Love that.
That's probably his biggest budget one, I would think. Right.
Well, yeah. It's got
Johnny Depp and
Johnny. Mm-hmm.
Not Antonio Banderas and Enrique Iglesias.
Oh, that's right. Yes, because he's one of the mariachis.
The bass player.
You know, the one thing we're taking a Robert Rodriguez little sidestep, but on the Once Upon a Time in Mexico DVD, there's a 5-minute cooking school, and a lot of his other DVDs have a 5-minute film school or a 10-minute film school. I forget what it's called, and those are all great. Those are, if you're looking to be becoming a filmmaker, he's got some of those features are just, those extra features are really good. But on the Once Upon a Time in Mexico DVD, it's a how to make the pork dish that Johnny Depp orders in the movie, because every time he shows up at a place, he orders the pork, the puerco pibil,
and he has to go kill the chef if it's too good, because there's a fine balance that must be sustained.
Right.
That movie has one of my favorite scenes/lines of all time, with Johnny Depp sitting at the table across from Cheech Marin when Cheech gives him whatever information or whatever, and he questions why he only charged him $10,000, and Cheech Marin said, "Well, you wouldn't kill someone over $10,000." And Cheech Marin walks off. Johnny Depp then takes off his fake arm, where he had another arm under the table holding a gun, and says, "Yes, I would." It's like my favorite scene of any movie.
I need to watch that again. It's been far too long. I forget how much I love that movie. So I'm really looking forward to what Robert Rodriguez brings to The Mandalorian. Because all the directors so far have really brought some of their own personal style. Like like Deborah Chow's stuff on The Mandalorian is very action heavy, and that's like her background. That's the stuff she really loves. Which again, you learn more about this in the docuseries. They really dive into that stuff pretty good. But yeah, so we've got some new Star Wars stuff. Again, we don't have any dates or anything, stuff to look forward to, but honestly, just knowing that Taika is going back into Star Wars. I mean, he did direct the season finale of The Mandalorian, so he's coming back into the galaxy far, far away. But really looking forward to what he does and like what his kind of unique spin is on the Star Wars galaxy, because he's able to find comedy in really interesting ways. Especially like in Jojo Rabbit, considering the content, to be able to take something so heavy and make it funny and enjoyable, but also like deep and meaningful. So looking forward to what he has to work on.
Yeah, staying on the topic of Star Wars, we did get some other news, Chris, with in the video game space, being with Jedi Fallen Order. We've gotten an announcement from EA that there is going to be a free update that is going to come out. The update doesn't appear to be any type of story update. Looks like it's going to be more of like a combat challenges, where it'll be like, kill 50 stormtroopers without getting hit, or like stuff like that, kind of arena type challenges. Right. You're going to get some new cosmetics, probably lightsaber colors, lightsaber hilts, ponchos, the outfits, which that's the one thing about that game that just really annoyed me. I want different outfits. I don't want different colored ponchos. Which is what I loved about Force Unleashed, is all the cool costumes that you could get. But anyways, I digress. And then it said there's also going to be a thing called the battle grid, which appears to be kind of like essentially in front of you, you see a grid, and it has all these pieces on it that represent like battles or units, and you have to navigate the grid and get to the finish, I think. And it will also have the ability to design your own battle grids, which kind of seems interesting and could kind of build a more community element to the game. Obviously it's single player, but I think you will be able to build your own and share your own battle grids. So I think that's pretty interesting. And obviously I would be willing to guess that the combat challenges are going to have leaderboards, scoreboards, things like that. So no new story, unless they, kind of slightly side weasel in the combat challenges. I assume you would go back if you haven't played the game. At one point you go to an arena, you get captured by a bounty hunter, get thrown in an arena, and you win your way out. As all third-person action games, you have to do that at some point. It seems to be very common. So, but, pretty cool. It's free, so I'll definitely download it and check it out. There's literally no reason not to. Right. Unless you just don't want to download the game again for some reason.
Or you're at a hard drive space or whatnot. I will say, James, while I did not complete the game myself, I did spend the weekend watching somebody else play. And so I have the entire weekends was pretty much spent watching as the game was being played, and me seeing like, oh, there's a crate, or maybe, so I felt like I kind of got to play. I definitely got to experience the full story, which was very good. It's like, oh, I want another. I need more, from this. One cool thing is you will get the Inquisitor outfit for Cal. That'll be one of the new unlockables. And then there's also a new story. There's a new way for you to play through the journey. So they're calling it like Journey Plus or something. So you can start over from the beginning. You will still have to relearn all of your abilities, but you'll maintain all of your all the stuff that you found. So if you've already opened the crates, they're already open. If you've, collected poncho, and in the press release, they even say, yes, even ponchos, because they know that it's a joke.
Yeah. And the only reason you don't keep your abilities is because that would break the game.
Right.
Because the whole idea is you go somewhere, you get abilities. It's kind of the Metroid style. You go somewhere, you get an ability, you go back to backtrack to somewhere you've already been, use that ability to open up new space. If they just gave you all the abilities, again, you could just go to the end. So
we got the officials counting.
This is a feature presentation.
And now, on with the show.
When it comes to Star Wars, some big battles always come to mind, right? Luke and Vader on the Death Star 2, Obi-Wan and Vader on the Death Star 1. We've got, the big Obi-Wan versus Anakin at the end of Revenge of the Sith. But there are a lot of really great battles and fights in the Star Wars saga that sometimes either have a bad rap or they're a little underrated. And so we're diving into some of our favorites, underrated or just kind of they don't get the respect that they deserve battles. And James brought this up. We were talking about the show and getting ready to talk Star Wars. And this is the battle that started this whole conversation off. So, James, what's the scene that got your mind going about these fights and battles in Star Wars?
Yeah, Chris. I mean, it really came. I was taking my lunch break. I was watching an episode of the Clone Wars, season 1, episode 7. R2-D2 is lost. He is captured. Anakin is trying to get him back. He has a substitute droid, R3S6, also known as Goldie. That is his partner for this mission. Turns out Goldie is a traitor, a traitorous bastard. And has decided he's on Grievous's team, R2 kind of figures this out as well, long story short, and you get a sky bridge fight between Goldie and R2D2. And I was watching it and thinking to myself, why does no one ever talk about this? This is such an interesting fight. It's two droids, two things you would never think would fight. There's a part where they are both electrocuting each other. There's a part where they're doing Goldie uses like a grappling hook suction cup thing and sticks to R2 when he's about to fall off the sky bridge to reel himself back in. I mean, it's a really interesting fight that they designed, and no one ever talks about it. So it kind of spurred this idea. I mean, it got me, like I said to you, it got me pumped for my afternoon. I mean, I was like, R2 just wrecked this droid. And that is not a character that you would think is wrecking droids. And not all these that we're going to come up with, because there's only so many opportunities for that type of thing. Not all these are going to be an unexpected character does something crazy. But it's just high points in the series, whether it be Legends or kind of expanded universe or the main saga that no one talks about, that actually have either huge plot implications or are just fun to watch,
Yeah. On the R2 and Goldie fight. First of all, I have Goldie's action figure.
Get it out of your house. It's probably listening to you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have plenty of listening droids in my house already. But that scene is amazing. And there's a moment in that fight where they're just like beeping at each other. And I'm wondering, is there a copy of the script that, has them like monologuing to each other? Because it's so bizarre. There's plenty of really bizarre episodes of the Clone Wars that's like this. There's like 4 episodes where it's basically 4 droids and Major Gascon, and they're in the middle of a desert. It's like A Good Day in the Void or something like that. I forget the episode name, where it's just mostly beeps and boops, and then one of the droids, a pit droid, and that one talks, and then Gascon, and it's just droids talking. But in this R2 and Goldie thing, I want to know what kind of smack talk R2's given, because we know he's got a mouth.
I believe it when something like this. Goldie called R2 Chrome Dome, which R2 did not take kindly to, and he then turned and made fun of Goldie in that he wasn't golden. He was actually piss colored. So I think that's what happened.
Official from the script. James has a copy. Jealous of him. He's got the whole Clone Wars.
I talked to Dave Filoni.
Filoni, you got it.
Filoni. There we go. I got it on the first try.
Say it with confidence next time, and you won't blow your Star Wars cred.
Yeah, there we go.
Some stuff. Yeah, I mean, we know from The Last Jedi, R2's got a mouth because Luke calls him on it and says, "Hey, language, Sacred Island."
Oh yeah, that's right.
So he's got a mouth on him. That's a really good one. And I was trying to think too of like just scenes that. When I watched him, and for the first time, or even now, that you don't see much discussion on. And the first one that came, well, there's a couple. I have some from Clone Wars, but let's jump back into the main saga before we head back into the Clone Wars era. But it's just it's that opening sequence from the Phantom Menace where Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon realize it's a trap and they're gassing the room. So they hold their breath, and then the doors open up, and we get this amazing Jedi being Jedi. It's not wartime. It's just we've got to figure this thing out. And we not only do we see just them being just badass Jedi, we also get like a split second of that like force speed, which is like. Mm-hmm. We've been playing video games where that was like a feature, up to this point, but we've never seen a Jedi do that, where 1 second they're, they take off running, and then the next shot they're all the way at the end of the hallway, and they're facing battle droids and droidicas, and it's just like, yes, like I remember Phantom Menace starting, and I was just like over the moon at that point, because I was like, this right here is like exactly what I've wanted, all these years waiting for a new Star Wars, and then Phantom Menace keeps going, but I love Phantom Menace, one of my personal favorites. But that right there to me is one of the underrated, scenes that when you ask someone like, what's the best Star Wars action, doesn't always come.
I mean, if we're talking about best Star Wars action, and I've said this from the beginning, and the only person I think that agrees with me on this is my brother, but the best Star Wars action to watch from beginning to end in the main saga, in the main 9 movies, is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. In my opinion, I get it. I'm going to get hate. But if I choose one movie to watch out of all the main 9, I'm probably going to pick that one because it has the best action. I mean, and we were talking about this, you know, when we were kind of discussing this thing, and literally every lightsaber fight in this movie gets overrated or is underrated because it has the best one at the end, being the Anakin Obi-Wan, right?
Right.
So,
How do you top that?
Yeah, exactly. But you also have the, you know, Yoda versus Palpatine. You also have Grievous versus Obi-Wan. You also have Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Dooku. And I like Grievous versus Obi-Wan. I mean, it has, in the series, it has the best lightsaber to combatant ratio, which I always get behind. And then a huge one being the Dooku one, because it has such a huge plot implication in that Obi-Wan, or I guess Obi-Wan's knocked out, right? Yeah, so he doesn't tell him anything. But essentially, it's the first time Palpatine tells Anakin to do something that he probably shouldn't be doing, and he just does it, right? He says, kill him. Like, this guy's bad, kill him. And Anakin chops his head off. You know?
And what's right. And there's so much there now with the Clone Wars being, you know, fully told, and you watch the Clone Wars, it makes more sense. I remember thinking when that happened in the movie, because, you know, we got, you know, Anakin and Attack of the Clones, and we jump forward 3 years or so. And all of a sudden, like, Anakin is doing something that you're like, that's just not, that's wrong. Like, that's what a quick turn to, you know, from doing what's right to, you know, doing something that is so opposed to the Jedi code, you know, and he battles with it a little bit, but, you know, knowing that all of this time during the Clone Wars, you know, he's being mentored and groomed to take this position.
Right. And you also see the fact that that Palpatine's apprentices or his, you know, cohorts are completely dispensable to him.
Right.
In the way that he used Dooku as a pawn to help turn Anakin, right? And if you can almost extrapolate that if the same opportunity happens with Anakin, it will happen again, right? Like, it's just one of those things where you kind of see that he's not really in it to make Anakin Skywalker the leader of the Republic. He's in it to make himself the leader of the Republic. It has nothing to do with it. It's literally, you're just another piece in this. And then you don't really see that until Darth Vader realizes it in episode 6 when he throws him over.
Right. And you do get you know, it's not canon anymore, but the finale of The Force Unleashed shows that, right? Because it's sort of like, oh, Starkiller, like, you could, come on, join me, do this.
Yeah, because you have the opportunity to kill Vader and become the new Darth Vader, essentially. And in the end of that game, that ending's not canon, although none of the endings of that game are canon anymore. Thanks, Disney.
Right. You know what's killing me? Now we're talking about The Force Unleashed just a little bit, is just the ending of The Force Unleashed 2 and having zero resolution to what happens next.
That game would have been so much better if that last battle just didn't exist. If it just ended. I would rather it just end and be like, oh, he just got into this room with all these clone Vaders, and then it just ended. Like, that would be so much better than actually having to fight all those clones.
Yeah. This is so good. I was just, you know, some other ones too, going back to the Clone Wars, in episode 15 of season 4, Ahsoka is, you know, teaming up with her friend, quote fingers, Lux Bonteri. And it leads them to a planet, and they end up with Death Watch, and they end up being captured because the truth of whatever was going on is like, you know, oh, like you're not, you know, you're not up to. Just
for the layman's out there, myself included, Death Watch is a group of Mandalorians. Correct.
And if you've watched The Mandalorian, the group of blue Mandalorians that rescue Din Djarin, the Mandalorian himself, are Death Watch.
Yes.
So just some ties between these two things. So Ahsoka gets captured, and then of course the unsung hero of the entire saga, R2-D2, shows up just when you need him, because essentially that's his role in this whole thing. Whether it's Luke on in Jabba's sail barge, just numerous different times has R2 come to save the day. R2 opens up like every compartment that he has, and like, fills the room with smoke and electricity, and cuts Ahsoka loose. And then Ahsoka's like first move is ignite her lightsabers, spin around in a circle, decapitating 4 Mandalorian Death Watch people, like all in one time. And there's this epic chase and battle with Bo-Katan, which is great to see. That story arc too is, they start off as adversaries, and then to see kind of where that leads up, through the end of Clone Wars, and then also into Rebels. And
huge thing to note about this, on-screen decapitation. Many times cuts away and you see the mist of blood or whatnot. But it just shows it. And I think it's because they're wearing helmets. If they weren't wearing helmets, no way that happens.
100%. It's kind of like
it's a children's show, and it just shows these guys get their heads walked off.
I think parents could be like, well, they're robots. Those are robots.
But by season 4, I think they had realized that this is not a children's show. This is a 30 to 35 year old, or whatever however old you were at that time, right?
They had done the market right. They had done the market research to find out who was buying the action figures, and it's me.
Yeah, exactly.
I have an absurd amount of
they do that. When you tell them your phone number, it goes up into a database, and everything you purchase is there, and people buy that information. And they realize that whoever bought these action figures never bought a single Paw Patrol.
Like, this isn't for children.
And that's how they know that adults were watching it.
The sad part is that's probably really true. Another one is another Clone Wars, also season 4, and it's Ventress and Obi-Wan when they're both captured by Savage Opress and Darth Maul. Well, just Maul at the time.
Which that's Maul's brother? Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah. So as
he's yellow, so different fathers, right?
I don't think it's their. I don't know how you. I don't think they're like blood brothers exactly.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, but just remember, when you go to like say Dathomir in Jedi Fallen Order, that the Night Brothers are that.
Yes.
So Savage is a Night Brother who was then with the magics of the Night Sisters.
But they're not. That's not a race, because they're a different race, right? They're like their race starts with like a D or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the Night Sisters. The Night Brothers are Zabraks.
Zabrak, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they're more or less like servants. I don't think they're like a,
so the sisters are in charge.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's a very progressive society.
Yes. So they're absolutely in charge. And they pump up, Savage Opress. He's this massive dude. It's, Clancy Brown doing the voice. And it's, if my memory serves me correct, this is the first on-screen reunion where Obi-Wan and Maul actually have some like real face-to-face time. And Maul's like, you watched as I gutted your master Qui-Gon Jinn. And it's just Maul eating up the scenery, and like it's a great fight to have to watch Ventress, who we're not talking about underrated characters, but Ventress is probably one of the most underrated villain baddies from this era of Star Wars, just because there's so much there that that she's involved with, that when you think about the bad guys of Star Wars, she often's not coming up on those lists. But it's fantastic. That's in season 4, episode 22. Actually, all of that stuff in season 4 dealing with Maul and Savage and the Night Sisters and like in Dathomir are just so fantastic.
Yeah, sounds like I need to power through to season 4.
Yeah, just skip ahead.
I'm gonna watch them all.
I know. I respect that, because I watched them all, and I had to wait week to week.
Well, that's insane.
I sat down in front of that TV every Friday.
That's crazy people activity.
Who does that
on a
anymore?
Friday night? It came out on Fridays. Chris.
Oh,
you couldn't just watch it Saturday.
That only guy had a DVR.
I'm just wow.
Listen to this, everybody. Geek State people, I want you to know James is shaming me for my Friday night activities, putting some priority on the wars.
Never shame you. I've been spending my Friday nights in front of my computer playing on Twitch, twitch.tv/SGeekShames. Follow, notification, hit the bell. Don't hit the bell if you don't want it though. But, come hang out. Anyways, we also reached out to our Facebook community, which we love our Facebook community, in an effort to kind of ask more people than just us. I feel like when we are talking, we get a very sometimes we morph into the same person and create the same answer. So we need to expand beyond that. And we got some great comments. And I'll be honest with these first two, a little Attack of the Clones, which almost makes you want to revisit this movie, or at least the last 40 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Both the Genosian arena and the battle on Geonosis. You've got, this kind of goes to the formula that was in Return of the Jedi and Phantom Menace being the air, land, and lightsaber battle, right? Because there's a little bit of there's a little bit of air combat going on, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely some drop ships coming in, but then you have the huge ground battle where in the arena where the Jedi are getting Padme and is it Anakin? That's there.
And Obi-Wan, yeah.
And Obi-Wan, yeah. And then I haven't seen this movie because the rest of it's such hot trash.
But I will say, no, and it's funny because we asked this question on a few of our different communities on our Facebook page and then our personals, and just to see like what we got, and there's some interesting groupings of certain movies that I was kind of surprised by, because Aaron right out of the gate, like seconds after I posted it, was like the Geonosian arena, and I was like, yes, because like that's Padme. That's like Padme kicking butt. The whole aggressive negotiation stuff. She's
also a decapitated Mandalorian.
Also, yes, it's not even as gruesome as this.
Not even close.
Not even close. I mean, you see the shadow.
Except the fact that it happens right in front of his son.
Yeah, that's
probably the worst part.
Yeah. And then Eric on our Geek State Facebook page said the Battle of Geonosis, and he was drawing the parallel to like a Lord of the Rings style, giant, 1,000 bad guys on this side and 1,000 on this side. I mean, you kind of get that in the Phantom Menace, with the battle droids versus the Gungans, but not to this like level of badassery, like where you've got the ships and the all the different stuff where it's just mayhem on all fronts. Like that's some epic stuff, and not to mention some unique filmmaking style during that scene, and really that scene only, where you've got these quick like I forget what the term is, where it's like a snap zoom where the camera's wide and then we don't cut to a close shot. We actually zoom in on like a drop ship, and like that threw me. I was like, this is not like, ooh, like this is real. Like it made it feel real, even though my brain was like, that's not proper Star Wars style. But then I'm like, George is doing this movie, so it is Star Wars style, whatever he does, So that was some good stuff.
Yeah, and then we had James come in with, he thought he was going to get a lot of hate for this, but I disagree. I think it's a good pick, a solid pick. But he came in with The Last Jedi and the bombing run at the beginning of Last Jedi, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, with the one sole exception of I cannot stand the Poe Dameron banter with with
Hux.
Hux and the captain's chair, I guess, or the bridge of that ship. I thought that was just absolute garbage. Find another way to do a distraction. But yeah, I remember watching this in the theaters and thinking that was so cool. And then in retrospect, after watching it, it's one of the two best parts of this movie. And we'll talk about the number one in my part. Or in my opinion,
and that's another thing that's interesting. We're worked on this list, but seeing a lot of Attack of the Clones and then also seeing a lot of The Last Jedi was, to me, surprising. Dano, as we talked about earlier on News Talk, he chimed in and with a deep cut, Wilford Brimley's when he's using a laser cannon to hold back the attackers from the Battle of Endor. I searched YouTube for a clip so I could show this to you because I'm 100% sure, James, you're not familiar with this scene.
Well, I can guarantee you that I've seen it. I've just not seen it in 20 plus years.
It's fantastic. I mean,
because I've definitely seen Battle. Yeah. Anyway.
It's the better of the two. I think
two Ewok movies.
If I'm going to watch an Ewok movie, it's going to be Battle for Endor.
We used to rent the Ewok movies religiously, so we would get them from Blockbuster just about every weekend. It was either an Ewok movie or a Godzilla movie. So
I remember I didn't know these movies existed in my childhood.
Well, that's because you're not a real fan, but you know.
Well, we're gonna gatekeep now. Yeah, that's a fantastic thing to do for a podcast. Derek chimed in with some more love for The Last Jedi with the throne room battle against the Praetorian Guards. This is, in my opinion, one of the greatest scenes from any of the sequel trilogy. Yeah,
I can definitely agree with that. I think it was, I liked it mostly because you weren't expecting it, I think is kind of the reason that I enjoyed it so much. And then also just when you have the two Jedi back to back and just like, it's just such a cool scene.
Yeah, I mean, just visually.
Yeah, visually. And the set itself, you had the red set with the red, red curtains, the red uniforms. It was like super cool. And then you had the dynamic, the yin yang of the full black, Kylo and the all white Rey. It was like just really cool aesthetically. It was like almost from like a alt rock 90s music.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the choreography, I know that there's some, people who have posted, frame by frames like, look, this blade disappears behind Rey's, face. I'm like, yeah, but they're doing these stunts for real. So they're using, in some cases, like, just they're holding on to handles and the rest is CG. So they don't actually hurt each other. I just think the choreography and stuff in those shots, because sometimes they play out in these long, wide takes. And it's so good.
Yeah, I agree. And then we also had Scott came in with Luke force projection versus Ben in The Last Jedi, and some more Last Jedi love. Also, just to clarify, The Last Jedi throne room battle is the one I was talking about with the other two. This one does not make the cut for top two. But it's still cool.
I was wondering. Yeah, because you didn't chime in
I didn't specify. I apologize. But
I was like, oh, maybe he's talking about the force projection as being one of his.
I'm not. The issue with force projection one is the lightsaber to combatant ratio very low in this one. It's a 1 to 2, which we don't like that.
So the Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan scene's pretty good because Maul's got the double blade.
It's 4 to 3 or 4 to 3, and I guess you could consider this one 3 to 2 if you consider the little side guys. I don't know I don't know what we're considering those. Are those blades or those backfire? The cross guard.
Yeah, are you talking about the Praetorian Guards, or?
I believe it all comes from one crystal, in which a double-sided blade comes from 2 crystals. So correct. I think we need to hammer it down to the number of crystals to combatants, in which Phantom Menace: Duel of the Fates would be a pretty solid ratio.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
However, Luke force projection versus Ben in The Last Jedi.
There's only one. There's only one crystal.
Pretty poor.
Yeah, because Luke doesn't even have an actual lightsaber.
No, he doesn't. I don't even think he illuminates a fake one. I think it's just him. I think he's dodging.
He's got one. He's got one, but he's holding the one that we saw recently destroyed in the throne room, which to me immediately I was like, ooh, is that him? I was like, that can't. I was like, they didn't just make a huge mistake. It's like that's a big mistake.
People who they claim that when they were watching the movie, they noticed that Luke didn't leave footprints in the dirt. Like, come on, you didn't realize that.
I didn't notice it. There's a couple of shots when you watch it now that Ryan kind of shows you probably about 3 or 4 times that he's not leaving footprints. And I didn't notice it till the very last one. But then it's like, that's the exact moment where you realize he's not really there. So it was like a split second where I was like,
well, the only one that really caught me off guard was his hair was kept all of a sudden.
And he was skinny.
Yeah, that was the only part that like got me. I was like, oh, he got a haircut before he made sure to stop somewhere to get a haircut before he came down.
He went to the Great Clips.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he goes to Sport Clips. He's a gentleman, and he likes sports. That's what you do.
What sports is Luke Skywalker into? I'm just curious. Do you think he's a pod racer guy, or
I don't know what other sports there are, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not a real fan. So
there's only a couple of times where we've ever seen sports in Star Wars, and it's in Attack of the Clones when they go to that bar when they're after Zam Wessel, and there's a bunch of stuff on screen, and one of the screens is showing some pod racing, and there's another one that looks like some kind of like kart race with just like a droid. Not really sure. I need to do some research in sports in Star Wars. Like, what are the sports that are played in the Star Wars galaxy?
I think they're in a galactic war, so I don't think they have too much time. If we can't play sports because of the flu, by God, during galactic war, I don't think they're having sports.
Let's just chime in that we don't believe that COVID-19 is the flu.
Yes, I'm being hyperbolic, just for the record.
And then we got a couple of people, actually 3 people, chiming in on the exact same battle. AJ, Alon, and Mark, all 3 said the Yoda versus Dooku fight from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good fight. It doesn't even, I believe, doesn't Anakin come to help out in that fight? Because he gets his arm chopped off, right?
Anakin
he's already incapacitated.
Correct. Yeah, he gets knocked out.
That's right. I haven't seen this in a while because that movie sucked. Okay.
Did you see it? You saw that in theaters? I'm guessing you were.
I saw it twice in theater. I saw it when it came out, and then I saw it before Force Awakens. I went to a thing where you watch all of them all the way through. So
plenty of opportunities during that movie.
There were a couple places in episode 2 for me to catch up on some Z's.
My dad and I drove all the way to the one theater in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex that was digital projection. It was the very first theater to install the new DLP projection system because Attack of the Clones was all shot digitally. And I was like, it was shot digitally. I don't want to watch this on film. I don't want to watch a digital movie that's being transferred over to a film and then being projected. I want to watch it as George Lucas wants us to do it. So we tracked down the one theater with some Cinemark, and it was way out of the way. Like it probably, in Dallas, in the DFW area, you can go 20 miles, but it take you like an hour and a half.
Right.
So I just remember this long drive to get there, and we watched Attack of the Clones on opening day at this digital projection, which I was blown away by just the clarity of the whole thing. Looking back, it was probably not even a 2K projection. I can't even. It may have been 1080p. I don't know what kind of systems they had back then. But when Yoda walks into the room, and first, like you heard like kind of a gasp, like the air was sucked out of that room in the theater. And then when he pulls back his robe and shows that lightsaber, like the crowd freaked out. And like, I would love to be able to go back and just relive some of these moments in a theater with people. I remember theaters. Remember what that was like? Theaters?
Yeah.
Going to movies?
Just something to note on the Yoda fight. This is the first time we get like spry Yoda too.
Right.
Because everyone, that's what freaked everybody out, is he was like flying all around. We were like, whoa. Like you didn't really know what you were going to expect when Yoda just showed up for this fight. And then all of a sudden he's like dancing around and doing flips and stuff. And then everyone was like, well, I'm on board with Yoda at this point. Which I don't know how Yoda didn't like, I guess he beat him, but he didn't kill him. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know. I'm confused by Dooku's power levels. If we can put this into Dragon Ball Z terms,
you see the back of this card,
Yoda, but died or got killed by Anakin. It's kind of. But also, Emperor was there. We don't know if he was like doing something on the back end.
True.
The brain Could be. We got another submission from Lewis, one of my friends. We worked in a restaurant together, actually. You worked in radio with people. I worked in a restaurant with people. So goes life. And he said Ahsoka versus Vader from Rebels, which I haven't seen this yet. I don't want to see this yet because I want to experience this one by watching it all the way through.
All I'll say is it's fantastic.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine it's very emotional. I can imagine. I would love to hear the score of it. I feel like that is probably really good. It
is really good, and I won't spoil a single bit. But we'll move along to another Vader battle. Kyle, another one of your friends, brought up Vader versus Maul from a Legends comic. It was called Resurrection. It's from an issue called Star Wars Tales, and it's got a kind of a. I don't know. There was kind of echoes of what eventually happened with kind of like as I was like looking into it, I was like, this kind of feels like the Rise of Skywalker. There was little elements to it.
Yeah, a little bit. I actually, yeah, kind of. The kind of the bit is that Vader is supposed to be looking for some rebel plans, and he goes to this volcano where they're supposed to be, and he's met with some Sith prophets, and they say, the plans aren't here, and we don't think you're the rightful apprentice. And a clone of, not a clone, they call it a doppelganger of Darth Maul appears, and Vader fights Maul, is getting beat by Maul, and then when Maul is about to give his last strike, Vader uses his hate and does a force pull on his saber, and then stabs himself, and through himself he kills the Maul doppelganger. Obviously, his whole middle is made of metal and components, so he was relatively fine. And a very emotional quote in which Darth Maul says, "What did you hate so much to draw that much strength?" And he said, "Myself." So oof. Vader, it's pretty heavy stuff, but a pretty cool story. And I didn't know about that one. So I'm definitely going to, once I finally re-up my Marvel Unlimited so that I can read all these books that James has been telling me about, James from our comments has been telling me that I need to read, I will definitely give this one a look because I believe all of the DC stuff is now on.
The Dark Horse line is all available on Marvel.
Not DC, Dark Horse. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Dark Horse is available on Marvel Unlimited. So I will definitely give this one a look.
It's all there. Yeah. And I almost pulled the trigger too on Marvel Unlimited this weekend, but then I ended up on the couch watching the movie that is Jedi Fallen Order. So I didn't get a chance to do it, but definitely I intend to do that. And then our last submission is from Jessica, and hers is the Rey and Ben handoff from the Rise of Skywalker when Palpatine's like, "Strike me down," blah, blah, blah. And she looks like she's about to do it. But then through the Force, she teleports it to Ben. And then Ben does the Han Solo shrug and then fights off all the Knights of Ren. Definitely, to me, as far as standout moments in the Rise of Skywalker, that one definitely ranks there for me.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's pretty, I don't want to hate on the movie. I enjoyed the movie, but it doesn't have a bunch of really cool action set pieces. There's that, and then there's the battle was that fight actually on Endor on the crashed? I don't know if it was actually on Endor or it was just wreckage from the Battle of Endor that landed on another planet. I don't know.
It's in the Endor system. It's called. God, I can't reach in the back of my head and find the name of that planet. I remember
a lot of oceans on Endor that looked like mostly a forest planet.
Right. But anyways, it's in the Endor system.
Yeah. So, so that there's that fight, and then there's the one that we're talking about here, and it definitely was pretty cool. I know that they had to foreshadow that was possible by like doing the whole fruit bowl thing earlier in the movie, but I wish they didn't have to do that.
Right. That would have been like
sweet. Yeah, if they just threw that one at us, if they just let us know that could also happen.
I wonder, at what point during the creative process was that discussed? Because I think one of the greatest things about Star Wars is sometimes is just them doing something and giving no explanation for it and just giving it to the fans like, here, speculate.
Well, I almost wish that they did it through talking, where like maybe they did a scene where they were like super, super close, and maybe he was talking into her ear while she was sideways and she said something that she could feel his breath, like maybe something like that. But
that's more subtle.
Yeah, but just the like fruit bowl was just very weird.
Some good stuff. There's endless hours of Clone Wars and Rebels and, maybe Resistance if that's one of your favorites. So we'd love to hear what are some of the underrated or some of the lesser talked about battles from Star Wars. Please go to our Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/The Geek State, or on Twitter. We're at The Geek State, The Geek State Pod on Twitter, and then Geek State Podcast on Instagram.
Let's look around the region and take our pick of the week.
Shut up and take my money.
All right, it's time for the pick of the week, and this is an opportunity for James and myself to recommend something, or sometimes it's just like, hey, I tried this thing, don't do it. But I'm feeling pretty generous this week, so James, why don't you go first this week?
Yeah, so that's very kind of you. I feel like you're always generous the way that you always go to me first. But
what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, no big deal. No, my thing for this week is I've been playing, obviously, on twitch.tv/James. I've been playing Predator Hunting Grounds. What this is it's a new Predator game. Based on the great Arnold Schwarzenegger film of the past, and should have been Jean-Claude Van Damme, but they got somebody else to do it because the suit was weird. Anywho, but no, it's a Predator multiplayer Predator game in which you have two teams. One team consists of 4 Marines. The other team consists of 1 Predator, who is obviously more powerful than the 4 Marines. But the Marines are put into an open world area that there are objectives that they have to complete and then get to an exfil site where they get extracted by a helicopter. And essentially, the Predator is put on a separate part of the map and has no clue where they are, can only go off of the heat signatures or gunfire to try and figure out where they are to get to there, and then also, obviously try and kill them. Now, the issue with that is there's also NPC enemies where they'll be fighting, and you kind of have to figure out, is that people or is that the NPC people? And it's just a really cool, interesting thing. And the Marines have the ability to rub mud on their body so that they don't get picked up by the heat signatures, but you have to reapply it. It doesn't last forever. You get talents and things, and there's a bunch of different guns to unlock. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't think it's for everybody. I think it's definitely something that if it interests you, you should definitely look into it. It's on PS4 and PC. You can also cross-play on the two, which is pretty cool. Huh. So I'll be on PC, and I'll play with people on PlayStation and vice versa. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. But it's a $40 game. It's not like a $60 investment. And I think that's the right price point for it. It's not like a crazy, there's only 3 maps, though the maps are very large. There's only 3 maps, but the objectives that the Marines have to complete on each map, I think there's 4 or 5 per map. So you're not constantly doing the same 3 things over and over. But yeah, I've quite enjoyed it. If you want to check it out, follow me on twitch.tv/sgeeksjames. And we will be playing it a little bit.
Got a question. So who gets to be the Predator?
So you can do queues. It gives you the option when you enter a queue to get into a game. You can either do Marine, Predator, or you don't care. Predator queue times are quite a bit longer than the Marine queue times, which is really interesting because this is, getting a little deep in the game. But when the game first released, Predator was super difficult to win with because nobody had unlocked any of the Predator stuff. You level up one thing. You don't level up Marines and then level up Predator. You just level up and unlock Predator weapons as you level up with Marines. So nobody had any Predator equipment unlocked other than the shoulder cannon and the hooks or the claws or whatnot. Right. So everyone, people were just getting destroyed by the Marines. So no one was queuing for Predator. So the queue times were pretty low for both. But now that people have unlocked stuff and their Predators super good, Predators are constantly winning. And the queue time for Marines will be 33 seconds, and a queue time for Predator will be 4.5 minutes. So I always just do the whichever you give me. So I used to get a decent mix of Predator and Marines, but now I'm pretty much only getting Marines. So eventually I'll switch over to Predator and playing that. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Again, it's not for everybody. I don't think it's for everybody. But if that type of gameplay interests you, I think it's worth at least looking at some YouTube videos or twitch.tv/SGeeksJames. Follow, notification, whatever. Do you
mine this week, I've got a quick one. I've already mentioned it's great. So check out Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian. It's fantastic. But I've also been spending a lot of time kind of rewatching some older movies on Netflix. I've been kind of watching all of Indiana Jones again because that's all on Netflix. But then starting this month, we just got Back to the Future. The trilogy of films are on Netflix as well. And so just as a kind of a heads up, if you don't have them in your personal library on Blu-ray or DVD or whatever, sometimes you forget about some of these classics. And this is more or less a notification that we all know they're great, but they're back up on Netflix. So go check out Back to the Future, which is out on Netflix. And that brings us to the end of this episode of the podcast. We'd love to hear from you if you are not a part of our Facebook or Twitter community or on Instagram. So just search for The Geek State on all of those platforms and you will no doubt find us there. And, stay excellent to each other. And we'll see you next time.
And yet it was your own lust for revenge that made you seek us out.
I wanted justice for my mother's death.
And you shall have it. But the Jedi are no different from Dooku, and this one shall pay in part for their crimes against Mandalore. So you see, it's not murder at all. It's like you say. It's justice!
Ahsoka! Now!
Thanks, buddy.
Stop!
Boom! Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo.
And I need another drinko.
Ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da-da. I don't know any... La cucaracha, la cucaracha.
Yeah, maybe we don't do that.